welcome to lesson 3.5. We are a little over halfway through the chapter on multiplication. We're going to look at modeling with arrays today. Remember, array was one of those vocabulary words that we did at the very beginning. So if you want to take a minute to look back at your vocabulary page that we glued into your binder, it lets you know what an array is. We're still working on the Common Core standard to solve problems for multiplication. Our objective today is to use the arrays to model products and factors. And your essential question is, how can you use arrays to model multiplication and find factors? And let's go ahead and start by getting your journal page set up for today. You should be getting pretty good at this by now. You're at 3.5. Your essential question is, how can you use arrays to model multiplication and find factors? Pause the video while you fill that in. You'll come back to that at the end of the question, at the end of the chapter, to answer that. You're going to also do your I can statement off of your essential question. I can use arrays to model multiplication and find factors. And of course, yours is written so much nicer than mine because you're not using a big fat smartboard marker. And you will have your problem of the day coming up next. Pause the video to finish filling in your journal page to get it started for today, please. Problem of the day is another test prep. Cora is reading a book that has 407 pages. She has already read 289 pages. How many pages does Cora have left to read? So, 407. She's already read 289. 7 minus 9 I can't do, but there's a 0 next door, so I can't borrow from it either. So we're going to change that 40 into a 39, and then I can borrow. Now I have 17 minus 9 equals 8. 9 minus 8 equals 1. 3 minus 2 equals 1. So our answer is 118 pages. Make sure that's on your journal page. Pause the video if you need to. Okay, jumping right into our lesson. I couldn't get it all to fit on one page to where we could still read it, so mine looks a little bit different than yours. You're starting on page 115 today with that essential question of, how can you use arrays to model multiplication and find factors? So we're going to unlock the problem. Many people grow tomatoes in their garden. Lee plants 3 rows of plants with 6 plants in each row. How many tomato plants is there? Okay. Now it says that your materials are to use your square tiles. There are some square tiles in the Math Center bin for you to use, but even better to do that is to just draw them, because then you're showing me your work. The key to drawing them is to make sure that you are drawing them nicely and making sure that they stay in nice straight rows so that you can see your equal grouping. Okay. You can make an array by placing the same number of tiles in each row. Make an array with 3 rows. Okay, so I'm going to make 3 rows. Okay. 6 tiles to show the tomato plants. Now, the tricky part is to make sure that when you do your 6, you already count the one that you did here. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you already have that 1, so you're starting at 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I always, just to make sure I have it, do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That'll let you know if you accidentally counted that first one twice. And I have 1, 2, and 3. Okay? So to find the total number of tiles, you have multiply the number of rows, which is this one, times the number in each row, which is here, to have 3 times 6. So now you just need to count them. You have 6 plus 6 plus 6. 6 plus 6 is 12, plus another 6 equals 18. So there are 18 tomato plants. Again, if you take your time and draw them nicely, you will not have a problem figuring those out. Okay. Looking at the math talk bubble on the bottom, this is an interesting one. Does the number of tiles change if you turn the array to show 6 rows of 3? So here I have 6 rows times 3. So before we had 3 times 6, now we have 6 times 3. Do you get the same answer? The answer, of course, is yes, because of the commutative property of multiplication. 6 times 3 is the same as 3 times 6. Just like when we did the commutative property of addition, that 6 plus 3 is the same as 3 plus 6. Okay. Activity 2. Again, it says we need the square tiles. We're going to draw those. And your math board is just going to be your white space. Okay. It says use 8 tiles. Make as many different arrays as you can using all 8 tiles. Draw the arrays. The first one is done for you. Okay. So you have one row of 8. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you have one row, that's this one, of 8. There's 8 in there. So the next one, you're going to do 8 rows of something. You decide how many you want to go over, okay? And you'll fill in that number here. Oh, but it has to equal 8. Never mind, you don't get to decide. So in order to equal 8, I did 8 rows of 1. So 8 times 1 equals 8. Okay? So it always has to equal 8 on both of these. Mrs. Nelson should pay attention to the directions page. Okay? So now you're going to create 2 different arrays having different rows of something, but they have to equal 8. Okay? So if you want to get out those little tiles and kind of play around with them to figure out, count out 8 of them, and then figure out how many different ways you can do different groups, and do C and D, please. Pause the video. Okay, on page 116, share and show. Complete, use the array. Okay, so we have 2 rows, and then we're going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 2 rows of 10. So you have 10 and 10. 10 plus 10 is 20. So is 2 times 10 equals 20. Okay. Now it just wants us to write the multiplication sentence for the array. So first count your rows. We have 3 times, and then count how many are in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then go back and count. 3 times 6 is 18. Do number 3, please. Pause the video. Okay, check your number 3 with my number 3 and make sure we are on the same track. And you have another math talk on this page. Suppose you have an array with 12 tiles and you want to put 3 tiles in each row. How would you decide how many rows to make? I would just do it backwards. Okay, so we're going to do 3 tiles in each row. There's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So how would you decide how many rows to make? I would start making rows of 3 until you get to 12. Would be the easiest way to do it. We are just flying through this lesson again today. So you're ready for your on your own. on page 117. When you are doing this, please make sure you are drawing nice and clean and clear so that your stuff lines up so that you are making actual equal groups. You're going to skip over to page 118 right now for us to do problem solving together. And use the table to solve number 11 and 12. So spend some time looking at Mrs. Bloom's garden. You have vegetables and how they were planted in there. Number 11, Mrs. Bloom grows vegetables. Mr. Bloom grows vegetables in his garden. Draw an array and write the multiplication sentence to show how many corn plants Mr. Bloom has in his garden. So I'm going to look at corn. So using my white space, very important now. He has he has 5 rows of 9. So I need to make 5 rows of 9. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Do the same for the other rows. Go ahead and fill yours in with me. Pause the video if I'm going too fast. Notice that I'm not really even counting now because I took my time to do that first one and make sure that it's right, and then I'm just lining them up right underneath the one that I drew before. So I'm not even counting that right now. I am just drawing my tiles and talking to you. You'll be really good at drawing tiles by the end of this chapter. Okay, so I have my 5 rows of 9. Okay, so you're going to have 5 times 9. Now, since we just talked about the commutative property of multiplication, I'm not going to add 9 plus 9 plus 9 plus 9 plus 9. I'm going to use the commutative property of multiplication, and I'm going to count by 5s 9 times because each one of these has 5 in them. Okay, this was 5, this was 9. I'm going to flip it around, and I'm going to count 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. And always have my label. Okay, right math. Could Mr. Bloom have planted his carrots in equal rows of 4? If so, how many rows could he have planted? Okay, so we need to figure out his carrots to begin with. He has 2 rows of 8, so 2 times 8. You know that 2 times 8 is 2 8s, 8 plus 8 is 16. So could you do it by 4s? Let's try it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now I'm just going to keep counting. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Could he do it? The answer is yes. And you can derive your own writing there. It could be that you did step countings of 4, because we have 4, 8, 12, 16. Okay. You could have explained by drawing a model of an array, 4 by 4 array. So go ahead and pause the video and write in here your explanation. And I'm going to look at that one as we conference today. So draw a little symbol there to remind us that we're going to talk about that. And then your higher order thinking one. Mr. Bloom has 12 strawberry plants. Describe all the different ways that he could make using all of his strawberry plants. The first one is done for you. So if you did 2 rows of 6. So you're doing the same thing you did on page 116 when you did C and D. You're going to take your 12 tiles and figure out how many different ways you could make that. And I'm also going to conference with you about this one today. So go ahead and find 12 tiles, figure out all the different ways that you can arrange them to equal 12 so that they are in equal groups. And then your last one is your test prep one. What multiplication sentence does this array show? Go ahead and fill that one in, and we'll just spot check that real fast for you when you come. So, what do you do now that I am done talking to you? You're going to go back and complete your on your own section. You're going to go back and finish writing an answer for the essential question of how can you use arrays to model multiplication and find factors. Okay. And then you're going to finish and make sure that you can really do your I can statement. So it doesn't do us any good just to copy I can use arrays to model multiplication and find factors if you really can't. So if you're not able to answer the I can statement and feel really good about it, then go ahead back and re-watch the video, or make sure that we really chat about it when I come to conference with you today. So almost done with this multiplication introduction chapter. Make sure that you have completed everything that is on your to-do sheet and that you are moving right along on this lesson.